Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Gurudev 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 Jai Om Vishnu Vishnupad Paramamsa Parivajagachaya Statara Shata Shri Maharaj Divine Grace Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Guru Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kunu Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Mathura Dham Ki Jai Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Dwarka Dham Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Yamuna Maya Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Gauda Premanandi Hari Bol. All glories to some devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to some devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to some devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga Namo Vishnu Hare Krishna. Om Namo. Oh, this is Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So this is a reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Untitled Chapter 1, text 101. Krishna naam mera mahima shastra sadhu mukye jani na mera madhuri aiche kahan nahi tume. Shuni Krishna naam mera mahima shastra sadhu mukye jani na mera madhuri aiche kahan nahi shuni. Krishna na mera mahima shastra saru mukhe jani na mera madhuri aiche kahan nahi shuni. Mahima Shastra Saru Mukhi Jani Na Mera Madhuri Aiche Kahan Nahi Shuni. Krishna namera mahima shastra saru mukhe jane namera madhure aiche kahan nahi shune. Ladies, Krishna namera mahima, the glories of the holy name of Lord Krishna. Shastra, of the revealed scriptures. Sadhu, of the devotees. Mukhe, in the mouth. Jani, we can understand. Namera Madhuri, the sweetness of the holy name. Aiche, in that way. Kahan, anywhere else. Nahi. No, nahi shuni. We do not hear. Translation. One has to learn about the beauty and transcendental position of the holy name of the Lord by hearing the revealed scriptures from the mouths of devotees. Nowhere else can we hear of the sweetness of the Lord's holy name. Purport. It is said in the Padma Purana, Ataha Shri Krishna Namadi Na Bhaved Grahayam Indriyahi. Chanting and hearing of the transcendental holy name of the Lord cannot be performed by the ordinary senses. The transcendental vibration of the Lord's holy name is completely spiritual. Thus, it must be received from spiritual sources and must be chanted after having been heard from a spiritual master. One who hears the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra must receive it from the spiritual master by oral reception. Srila Sanatana Goswami has forbidden us to hear the holy name of Krishna chanted by non-Vaishnavas, such as professional actors and singers, for it will have no effect. It is like milk touched by the lips of a serpent, as stated in the Padma Purana. Avaishnava mukudgirnam puttamhari kathamritam shravanam naiva kartavyam sarpuchishtam yatha payaha. As far as possible, therefore, the devotees in the Krishna consciousness movement gather to chant the holy name of Krishna in public so that both the chanters and the listeners may benefit. Om Gana Tamarandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stahapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadapti Swabhadanti Kam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavascha Shri Vaishnavam Sahagatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vatam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shivashakanvatam Sta Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vicharane Nirvashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshtarane Vanchako Pataruvishcha Kripasundu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhaktakam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namoste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radha Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Ami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Shmati Bhakti Vikasha Swaminiti Namane. So the translation, once again, one has to learn about the beauty and transcendental position of the holy name of the Lord by hearing the revealed scriptures from the mouths of devotees. Nowhere else can we hear of the sweetness of the Lord's holy name. It is said in the Shastras, Sampradaya Vihina Ye, Mantras Te Nishpalas Priha, that without hearing the mantra within the Sampradaya, from the bona fide disciplic succession, the chanting of the mantra will not bear the fruit. So in a similar way, the hearing about the glories of the holy names of the Lord, one has to learn about these, the beauty and the transcendental position of the holy name of the Lord by hearing from the revealed scriptures through the mouths of the devotees. Now this is very interesting because we sometimes hear that chanting Hare Krishna requires no rules and regulations. If you just somehow or other come across the holy name of the Lord, you chant it, and immediately it gives you great benefit. So just like it said that there was even if you have the chance, you chant the name of the Lord, and even if there are many syllables in between, the different syllables indicating the Lord, still the Lord's name comes. Just like there was one time a Muslim gentleman, he's being chased by a boar, by a pig. The pig was going to kill him and eat him. And so he was saying, this is horrible, haram, haram. He wasn't chanting, he was saying, oh, this is abominable, haram, haram. But this is haram, oh Lord, Lord Ram. And still, he came into immediate contact with the Lord. So, but to understand something about the transcendental qualities and position and beauty of the holy name, still one has to hear that from the revealed scriptures through the mouths of the devotees. Now, why is that? So, a little bit, what are the revealed scriptures? What is Shastra? So, in the Vedanta Sutra, third shloka, the third sutra, it is said Shastra Unitvat. And that means that the Shastra, this is the source of the transcendental knowledge. So before that, it was said that, what is the Atato Brahma Jigyasya? So now is the time, the inquiry about what is the absolute truth. What is this, what is this Brahma? What is this Brahman? And this Brahman, to understand it, from our point of view, there are only so many things we can understand in this world. So I can see this glass in front of me, I can pick it up, I can see certain qualities about it. And for example, I can look outside the window and I can tell the sun is out in the sky, even though it is cloudy right now and we cannot see the sun disk. But we know through inference, through anuman, that because it is very, very bright outside, only the sun being in the sky can account for it, even if we cannot see it. But beyond that, anything beyond that, we have to hear from an authority in order to understand. Just like if I want to know what is going on in Russia right now, the only source for that are the newspaper reporters. Now, what to speak of Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, who is beyond the reach of our mental speculation. We cannot understand the Lord by any amount of scientific investigation, by any amount of inference or philosophical speculation. We cannot understand that. So, in order to understand that which is beyond our ability to acquire by experiment or philosophy, we must take shelter of the revealed scriptures. So this is what the revealed scriptures are. So the revealed scriptures, the standard of the Vedas and Vedic literature is that it can never be, you cannot get it from any other source. You cannot get it from anywhere else, only except through the scriptures. So in the same way, so for this reason, because the holy name, to understand actually what is the holy name, one has to hear first from the Shastras. And not just hear from the Shastras, but to also hear from the holy men, from the saintly persons who are coming in disciplic succession. So why this disciplic succession? So when Arjuna, he surrenders to Krishna, he says, I accept everything you have told me. And Krishna says that because you're my devotee and my friend, you can understand this transcendental mystery. Why is that? So if you look at language, just the nature of language itself, you can take somebody's statement and you can interpret it in different ways. Just like, for example, the Mayavadis. When they say, they take Sarva Dharman Pratyaja Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. They don't interpret that in the same way we do. They give a different interpretation without changing any of the word meanings. They say that it is not to Krishna that you surrender. Just like, for example, if I'm sitting in an office, if I'm a big boss and I'm sitting in an office and I tell somebody, you come to see me, I'm also telling them I'm going to see I'm also telling the person to come to my office, right? You come see me, and come to my office. That's what I'm telling you. You come to your office and see me. So that's how the Mayavadis interpret this. Sarva Dharman Pratyaja. So there are many ways you can interpret something. Therefore, one has to hear this subject matter from the devotee. Otherwise, one will get the wrong interpretation. In fact, this is the standard of Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is. So as it is means is Krishna intended it. That's what it is. That's what, as Krishna intended it, as Krishna wanted it to be understood. Because and Prabhupada very nicely describes this problem in the introduction and preface of his great master work, the Bhagavad Gita, as it is. He says that there are many editions of Bhagavad Gita in the English language, and one American woman asked him, what is the best edition? And so he said, the problem is that so many scholars have presented their opinion without touching on the spirit of Bhagavad Gita. So this is the problem. So, for example, in the early days of Iskcon, sometimes we're preaching, and even now we're preaching, you chant Hare Krishna because it recharges your batteries. Okay. Maybe sometimes we say like that to sell a book or to get somebody interested or a little bit, but that's really not what the holy name is about. Just like people, they do asana, yoga asanas, to recharge their batteries and refresh. And it even says in Bhagavatam about Hatha Yoga that it helps maintain your health. But that's not the holy name. That kind of speculative understanding will not help us. It will not help the person who hears it, and it will certainly not help the person who tells it. So the Shastra. So the first point about Shastra is that this is information we can't get from anywhere else. We can't get from tradition, we can't get from scientific experiment, we can't get by philosophy, we can only get it from Shastra. And the second point is that the devotees, because they come in parampara from the Lord, and the Lord's representatives, they have the right understanding. So just like you take a point, if you take like a point in space, okay, say there's a little point here. Now let's say I take a line and I draw a line through it, okay? There's one point. I'm going to take a line, another line, and draw another line and point to it. I'm going to take a third line, and a fourth line, an infinite number of lines you can draw a point. You can draw through that single point. But when you put another point there, there's only one line that can go through the 2 points. That's the Guru Parampara. Keeps us on track. And actually, we have a third point. Third point is the sadhus. So the Parampara, not only does the Guru say what is in the Shastras, but he also says what the previous acharyas say. So sometimes people say, they take the word of Guru or they take the word of Prabhupada and they say, well, Prabhupada meant this and that's good enough for me. Well, maybe. Because given that people can take Krishna's words and twist them, how is it not possible for someone else to also take Prabhupada's words and twist them, or take your Guru's words and twist them? Make them, make something else that he never intended. So therefore, we have, Srila Narottam Das Thakur says, Saru Shastra Guru Vakya Chitte Te Karya Aikya. So you have the sadhu, you have the shastra, and you have the spiritual master. These are all sources of Shri Shri Radha Parthasarthi ki jai, Shri Shri Gonatai ki jai, Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshmana Hanumanji ki jai. Hare Krishna. So you have the Guru, the spiritual master, from whom we are hearing these things, from whom we are hearing spiritual knowledge. And then you have the saintly persons, like Srila Prabhupada and all the other acharyas and so forth. And then you have the Shastra itself, the revealed scripture, which is in the divisions of Shruti, Smriti, Purana, Pancharatra, and so forth like that. These are given by saintly persons, and Shrutis are heard by the different sages, the Vedas. So when you have these 3 lines, so what is 3 points? So 2 points establishes a line, okay? But in kind of like, to make this a higher level of abstraction, through these 2 points you can have many different planes, right? For those of you who know geometry, so just like through a single point you can have many lines, through a single line you can have many planes, isn't it? So now to have one single plane, you need how many points? You need 3 points. So this is the Guru Parampara. Srila Prabhupada, he compared this once to a railroad track, that in order to get to the destination, just like a railroad track, you have 2 lines, so we have 3 tracks. So there's Sadhu, Shastra, and Guru. And then finally, perhaps the most important part of this understanding is the Aikya, that there has to be a unity of understanding. So one time when Srila Prabhupada was in America, Prabhupada had this public debate. It was published in the newspapers between himself and a Professor Stahl, University of California. So this is very interesting. This is back in the days before the internet and everybody could just have all sorts of debates. But what would happen is that Srila Prabhupada, what precipitated this debate was the devotees were preaching and they were going to have teach a class at the university. And the university department decided to cancel this because they said that this is not really the tradition, it's just their thing, but it's not really kind of like what it is. So Prabhupada said, how can you say that it's not what it is? So he challenged this Professor Stahl, and he said that he said these are the pramans, this is coming from the Shastras, the revealed scriptures, that's chanting the holy name. Mat chitta mad gata prana bodhayantas parasparam kathayantas chamam nityam tushanti cha ramanti cha. That the saintly persons, Their thoughts are always dwelling in the Lord, and they're always conversing about and talking about the Supreme Lord. So Srila Prabhupada says, this is in Bhagavad Gita. How can you say that this is not bona fide? And so his opponent, Professor Stahl, he quotes some other shastra, he quotes some other verse and so forth like that. So this quoting and counter-quoting went on, and then finally Srila Prabhupada, he showed, he said that actually that this rapturous appearance to the to Vedic literature, that in other words you have this statement here that's contradictory, that statement here that seems contradictory to the other. He says this is only on the count of unauthorized disciplic successions. Only on the account, and therefore the Shastras appear to be rupturous. That there appears to be a discontinuity, they appear to be inconsistent. Because the message of Vedic literature, the sadhus, the saintly persons is one. This is the Aikya. Krishna says that Vedaischa sarver ahameva vedyaha. That by all the Vedas I am to be known. This means the Vedas, the Puranas, the Mahabharata, the Panchatras, the Dharma Shastras, and so forth like that. By all these Shastras, and what all the bona fide saintly persons say, I am to be known. So therefore, to allege that there's some inconsistency is a sure sign that someone has an improper understanding, that someone has not received this information, whether the glories of the holy name of the Lord or any other duty or something, etc. If one has not received it in the proper way, then there will be all these different inconsistencies. One will not be able to resolve them. So therefore this principle of Aikya, this unity, Aikya means unity or oneness. There has to be that understanding. So just like we talk about Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, inconceivable simultaneous oneness and difference. So this oneness, this Aikya, this starts with this harmonious way of understanding what are the Shastras. In fact, in the early days, even in the time of Shankara, and before in Kumar Labhata, the Buddhists were challenging, what is this? He says, your Shastras are not consistent. And so they replied back, no, they actually are consistent. There is a consistency. This is one of the very important, this is why the Vedanta eventually prevailed in India, and why Buddhism, more or less left India. So, this is very important. So, glories of the holy name. So, Vaishnava Mukodgiranam, Puttam Hari Katamritam, Shravanam Nevakartavyam, Sarpochishtam Yatha Payaha. So, this is India, and India being India, this is Krishna's land, so there's a lot of Krishna culture here. And so, oftentimes, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, it appears in the film, or it appears in the television, or something like that, and devotees, of course, are very happy. But at the same time, this is not the correct way to hear or propagate the holy name of the Lord. So therefore, the correct propagation of the Sankirtan movement requires very vigorous prosecution by the devotees of the Lord. Harinam Sankirtan, book distribution, bona fide devotees giving class, and so forth. And speaking about the Lord, the holy name, even other topics. What is dharma? What to do, what not to do, even in your ordinary life. That can only be known through the devotee. So, so this is a very important point. Prabhupada says that Srila Sanatana Goswami has forbidden us to hear the holy name of Krishna chanted by non-Vaishnavas such as professional actors and singers. So you can add to that list many other things, professional politicians, you can add academics and so forth like that, persons who are doing this as a profession. So this will not help. And you can see practically that people who've done this way, just like in Chaitanya Lila, in this Kanda of Chaitanya Charitamrita, the great devotee Bhagavan Acharya, he was lame devotee, a very simple devotee, very, very nice, but he had a younger brother who became a very great scholar. And so but he was a Mayavadi. And so, because he was a scholar and he was his brother, he used to associate with him, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never approved. And so Bhagavan Acharya at some point had to keep distance, like that. So glories of the holy name. When one has to hear about the holy name through the revealed scriptures, from the revealed scriptures through the mouths of devotees. And then when one hears about the glories of the holy name with faith from the Shastras and the Acharyas, and seriously takes up the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. So then one begins, seriously one begins one's spiritual life. So Padma Purana is mentioned here, so also from Padma Purana there are also 10 offenses mentioned against the holy names of the Lord. So in order to chant purely, one must chant the holy name, avoiding all these offenses. And then, when one comes to that point, when one comes to the point of it's called Shastriya chanting. One's chanting is Shastriya. When one finally reaches the stage of perfectly following the Shastras and the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, then the threshold of, then one is at the threshold of purely chanting the Lord's holy name. So, when one purely chants the Lord's holy name, even once, one of the symptoms is that one loses all attraction for any kind of material enjoyment. You're just not interested in it anymore. Your material life is ruined. So such people are called Vaishnavas. Those who have not yet attained that stage are called Vaishnava Praya, that they're aspiring to be Vaishnavas. And when one is a little more advanced, one is incessantly chanting the holy name of the Lord. Such people are preachers, because they're going around, they're chanting, they're telling everybody about Krishna, and so forth like that. Those people are rightfully, they're empowered. One is known as Vaishnavatara. So one is more advanced. And then when one is even more advanced than that, one is at the highest level. One is called Vaishnavatama, according to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. That a Vaishnavatama, that when one is in the presence of such a Vaishnavatama, Vaishnava Uttama, that one himself automatically begins chanting. Just being in that person's presence. That's how powerful. So we can see that Srila Prabhupada, he was such a powerful Vaishnava that he just came to America And people, just by being in his presence, they took up the Krishna consciousness movement earnestly. That is how great Srila Prabhupada was. So we should remember that when we're preaching, that it maybe seem like very difficult to us and so forth like that. But the real secret of success is to make advancement in chanting the Lord's holy name. So just as, for example, we know that the sun is out in the sky by seeing that it is so bright around. In the similar way, we can understand a little something about the glories of the holy name by Srila Prabhupada's presence, by his utterance of the holy name, because of the great effect it had on other people. It's just a little tiny indication of how exalted the holy name is and how exalted the pure devotee of the Lord and his holy name are. And sometimes we forget that. So sometimes in our preaching we think, okay, well, you know, Srila Prabhupada came, he established this great movement, and you know, his dutiful disciples and followers of Srila Prabhupada, we're trying to maintain what Srila Prabhupada has given us. And if we're not, which is most of us, on that level of a Vaishnavatama, like Srila Prabhupada was, and it can be a little more difficult for us. And depending on our level of advancement, especially if we're not even Vaishnava, you know, we're Vaishnava Prayaha. We're just Vaishnava Praya and Brahmana, they're same level. Vaishnava Praya is considered also on the level of Brahman, of a Brahmana, because such a person, even though he's not by caste a Brahmana, he's understood what is the goal of life. Om Tad Vishnaho Paramam Param, as it's said in Rig Veda. So someone who understands what is the goal of his life, he's also just like a Brahmana. And a Brahmana is somebody who understands. Sometimes such Brahmanas may be engaged in other activities. They may be performing karma kanda activities, they may be, but still, according to Jiva Goswami and Bhakti Sandhara, if such persons know, you know, what is the transcendental objective, if they know that Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna is the object of all such worship, then even those persons are considered Vaishnavas. Sometimes one may be initiated in the Shiva mantra. He might not be initiated as a Vaishnava, in the Vaishnava mantra. He's in Shiva Sampradaya. But still, he understands that Lord Krishna is the goal. It's just like, for example, this is possible because, just like, for example, you work for a boss. If you're working in the corporate world, you have a boss and you work for somebody. But your boss has a boss. So the boss of your boss is also your boss, right? And so similarly, the das of your das is also your das. So Srila Prabhupada, sometimes he'd remark, sometimes he'd mention that there's one university professor he used to talk about, he's a Muslim. He said, but he's nonetheless a Vaishnava. He said, every Janmashtami he writes a very nice scholarly letter in praise of Lord Sri Krishna. So even though such a person is born not, you know, outside of a Vedic or outside of a family, you know, pious Hindu family, he's still a devotee of the Lord. So, just like our Srila Haridas Thakur, the Namacharya, also took birth in a Muslim family. But he's a Namacharya. He's the exemplary in how to actually, for us, and how to chant and take shelter of the holy name of the Lord. So it is from such persons that we have to take shelter of. Just like with Haridas Thakur, there was a process. It was Ramachandra Khan. He tried to send a prostitute to seduce Haridas Thakur, make him fall down and discredit him. Why would anyone want to do that? This is the nature of demons. Demons are just so envious. Even a devotee who harms nobody, they want to kill them. Just like Hiranyakashipu wanted to kill his faultless son Prahlad Maharaj. So Ramachandra Khan sent this prostitute to seduce Haridas Thakur, engage him in sinful life and fall down. But Srila Haridas Thakur, chanting, she heard the holy name from the lips of Srila Haridas Thakur, and she became purified. This is the power of the holy name when heard from the lips of the pure devotee. So therefore, this Krishna consciousness movement is unique in the world in that it is giving the holy name, coming in the bona fide parampara to the devotees, to the people all over the world. This is a unique mission in the world, and it is our duty to somehow or other make it happen. And so that depends very much on the perfection and development of our own Krishna consciousness in trying to serve the holy name and trying to serve the Vaishnavas, Srila Prabhupada, and our spiritual masters. So there's actually a lot in this verse. There's a lot we can talk about. We can talk about the Shastras, more about the Shastras. We can talk about the unlimited glories of the holy name. There's so much that's here in this verse, in this purport. This Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, written by Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj, this is also Shastra. Srila Prabhupada's books, they're Shastra. This is very nice. How do we know? In Manu Samhita, it is said, what are the sources of knowledge of Dharma? It is said, Shruti, what is it, Vedo Kilo, what is it, this is escaping me now. No, not that one. This is Shruti Smriti Puranadi. This is Vedo Kilo Dharma Moolam. Vedo Kilo Dharma Moolam. What's it? Smriti Shila Chatadvidam. So, Vedo Kilo Dharma Moolam. So the Vedas, the Shrutis, this is the root of all Dharma. And Smriti Shile Chatadvidam. So this is the, so the Smritis, this is what's called remembrance. So for example, if I've written something, what is called the Smritis, those persons who have heard from the Shrutis, they explain what is the Shrutis. From their recollection, they explain, they give so many examples, just like in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are many questions, and therefore the different sages, Maitreya, Vidura, conversation between them, they recall what is from the revealed scriptures, like this. So this is also scripture. And sometimes, this is a very important point, that sometimes the revealed scriptures become manifest, sometimes they become unmanifest. That means sometimes they're lost. Okay? This is even mentioned in the scriptures themselves. Sometimes the Vedas are lost. and then they have to be recovered. But sometimes the only source for this is the Smriti. Just like there are so many verses from the Puranas, Vedas, and so forth, that you don't find them actually in the versions of Vedas we have, but you can find them in Smritis. Different Vedic sacrifices, if you want to perform them, you cannot get them from Vedas themselves, but you have to get them from the Smritis. But that's also Vedic, because that's the characteristic of that's what Smriti means, from Smaranam. So in the same way, when great devotees, saintly persons, pure saintly persons, Shile, that's what the Shile means, they write these granthas, just like Prabhupada. He's written his books and his purports. Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj, he's also written. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he's written. Balashri Baladev Vidyabhushana, so many, Narottam Das Thakur, they've written these. They're also Shastra because they're in the category of Smriti, they're Smaranam. Therefore it's also a source of knowledge of Dharma and Bhakti. And it's very important because Prabhupada himself, he talks about, for example, how do you engage an airplane in Krishna consciousness or a phone in Krishna consciousness? You might say, well, it's not in Vedas, it's not in Puranas, but Srila Prabhupada is given. That's how we know. Smriti Shile Chatatvanam. Acharas, Sadachar. The Sadachar, the sadhus is the next one. Srila Prabhupada does many things, said many things. He's also, by his own personal behavior, he set the standard. And then Atmatushti, this is the fourth one, sometimes just the preferences. Srila Prabhupada, he very much liked to see his devotees dressed in dhoti and sari. Sometimes people, they have this, sometimes people, they ask, is the dhoti Vedic? Is the sari Vedic? How do we know? Where is it in the Shastras? Just Srila Prabhupada's approval is enough. That's how we know. That's how great a devotee is. It's not just a good suggestion, but it's actually a source of knowledge of Dharma, according to Manu Samhita. Acharas chaiva sarunam atmanas tushdirevacha. So this is from Manu Smriti. So that's the Shastric basis for everything. The Shastras, the good behavior, the sadhus, the Smritis, this covers anything imaginable. So it was from these sources one should hear about the holy names of the Lord and the glories of the holy name. Outside of this, one cannot understand it all. Or if you go to the university, you understand what is the holy name of the Lord, you will get deviated. You will get a wrong understanding. If you hear from the actors and the actresses and the professional singers about the holy name and you hear something, you will not be benefited. It might seem like the same thing, but it's not the same thing. Well, how do you know? Well, the only way you can know is because it's from the scriptures and from the sadhus, isn't it? It's just like junk food. You eat potato chips and all sorts of other food, and you eat it, but your body doesn't get nourished. It looks like the same thing, but it isn't the same thing. You have to get the real food that's cooked at home and offered to Krishna. Offered with love to Krishna. Then it's the real food, then you will be benefited spiritually and materially. But the junk food, you will be neither materially benefited nor spiritually benefited. So appearances, that's the whole point, appearances. Karl Marx, everyone knows who Karl Marx is? Okay, he was the founder of the communism. He used to say that if appearances were identical with the truth, then there'd be no need of science. Isn't it? If truth is as everything appears to be, then there's no need for science. So the Vedas And the acharyas have taken this to its logical conclusion. Well, even in the matter of science, it is not necessarily the case that even inference can be wrong. Okay? Even inference, even according to science, you can be, you can be wrong. So therefore, this is why we have to hear from the Vedas, from the proper source, from Vedas, Vedic literature, through the mouths of the acharyas. Only then can we understand correctly what is the sweetness, the holy name, how to chant the holy name properly, and therefore make spiritual advancement. So I have this sign here in front of me. It says, Hare Krishna Maharaj Prabhu, we humbly beg you to finish the class by 9 a.m., including questions and comments. Devotees have other service to do. Please cooperate, your servants at Iskcon Delhi. Note subject to change on major festivals and Sundays. So this isn't a major festival and it's not on Sunday. Do we have time for one question? Maybe we'll take 2 questions, but we'll take you next.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for a beautiful lecture on glories of this holy name. My question is why should we chant Harinam, holy name? What mood should we have while chanting holy name? What actual benefit of chanting holy name?
Well, I'm going to leave that for another class, because this class was about hearing about the glories of the holy name from the proper source. So you'll have to forgive me, but there's going to be more classes about that. So we're going to, pardon me, but you had a question.
Prabhuji, you mentioned that Srila Prabhupada's books can also be considered Shastra.
Yeah.
Because they come under Smriti. So in this way, we have a lot of books coming from Prabhupada's disciples and their disciples. So all these books that are coming, which are not exactly Prabhupada, but their disciples and their disciples, should we all consider them as Shastra?
Could you hear that? This is a very important question. Can you repeat that question louder?
Actually, I have a throat problem.
Yeah, you can repeat, because this is a very important question. Sorry if this goes over, but this is a very, very important question.
He's asking, like you said, that Prabhupada's books are like Smriti.
Yes.
So Prabhupada's disciples and Prabhupada's disciples are also writing books. So should we consider them also Smriti? This is his question.
The answer is yes, and it's a qualified yes. Okay, so let me explain that there's 2 kinds of persons. Okay, there's perfect and there's imperfect persons in this world. Okay? So Jiva Goswami mentions in his Tattva Sandarbha, he talks about what's called Vaidushya Pratyaksha. Vaidushya means that without fault, without dosh, Vaidushya. Okay? And he mentions that even this is the basis of someone who's qualified to write Shastra. Now, an interesting thing you'll note is that Prabhupada, he quotes Chanakya Pandit as authority. Okay? Now, one time somebody asked about Chanakya Pandit. He says he's a Vaishnava. Prabhupada says, no, he's a moralist. But yet he's an authority. Okay? So, the minimum standard, the minimum standard is that someone is learned in the Vedic literature, and he is exemplary in his character. So Smriti Shile cha Tadvidam. So you have Shile and Tadvidam. So the Shile means that he's he doesn't have any interest other than in Dharma, and he's pure in a character. You can have pure Brahmanas, okay? They may not necessarily be Vaishnava or topmost Vaishnava, but the Brahmanas, and he doesn't have any other interest than in talking about Dharma. And so therefore, according to such criteria, others, like Chanakya, they're also authority. They may not be Vaidush, they might not have Vaidushya Pratyaksha, like, your topmost devotees, okay? They might not have that Vaidushya Pratyaksha, but at least they're Brahmanas, Okay? At least they're brahmanas. And so therefore the rule is that with such smriti, it is because the person's character and because of his learning, such literature acquires the status of shastra, and it's called smriti, and especially if it was meant to be thing, when it's also accepted by similarly qualified people. Like that. So therefore, even though Chanakya Pandit is not considered like, he's considered a moralist, not a Vaishnava, still we accept his authority. So, now Prabhupada's disciples, now this is very nice because this opens up this for Prabhupada's disciples and followers and so forth. You may have a guru, sannyasi. Prabhupada said sannyasi should write. Okay? And we have many other devotees who are writing. So their writing, based on their learning, the status of their writing comes from their learning, their character, and so forth. And so over time, if that's also accepted by similarly qualified and purified men, that also can, be accepted as Shastra. Now the criteria for that is it also should not be against anything else in the Shrutis and Smritis. That's a very important point also. So therefore, sometimes if we do find some Shastras that are written by saintly persons, they may have something that's not in line with the Vedas. So I was at a Sanskrit conference many years ago, and I asked one of the devotees, students at the college, he was a Sanskrit student, I just asked him this question: why is it that Valmiki Ramayana is considered the only bona fide version of Ramayana? And he said, that is because it is the only version that is not against anything in the Vedas. Valmiki Ramayana. Yeah. So therefore, depending on this, partly depending on the status. For example, Prabhupada, he's such a pure devotee as the Vaidusya Pratyaksha, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. We accept these great acharyas as having that. Those who are not on that platform, they may also write, and their writings in the future may also be regarded as Shastra. They're not necessarily regarded as Shastra because those persons who are contemporaries, they have access to the same information. They may not regard it, but in time, because that's how time works, these different literatures may disappear, the references may disappear, and the only source is going to be from their books that you can actually understand what is Dharma and Bhakti. So therefore it acquires over time the status of Shastra. So, does that satisfy your inquiry? I know but this is very important because sometimes people say it's only Prabhupada, it's only us, and everybody, what everybody else says is not, you don't have to follow it, but that's not what Manu says. And even Prabhupada, he also explains similarly along those lines. What is the Smriti? So, anything else? I know it's late, but would you like to say anything, Prabhuji?
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. तो हिंदी? अच्छा. तो ये कथा प्रसंग है, उस समय का है, भगवान चैतन्य जगन्नाथपुरी में है, और रूप गोस्वामी अपनी कुटिया में है, विदग्ध माधव जो नाटक है वो लिख रहे हैं, और हरिदास ठाकुर भी वहाँ पर बैठे हुए हैं, और चैतन्य महाप्रभु आए रूप गोस्वामी के पास और पूछा कि कौन सा ग्रंथ लिख रहे हो, और रूप गोस्वामी जो लिख रहे थे उसका एक पृष्ठ उन्होंने उठाया और उसको पढ़ा. तो जो पढ़ा वो श्लोक जो है इतना सुंदर नाम की माधुरी का है कि भगवान चैतन्य उसको जो है मतलब बहुत प्रसन्न हुए. और जब चैतन्य महाप्रभु बहुत प्रसन्न हुए और हरिदास ठाकुर भी वहीं बैठे थे, तो हरिदास ठाकुर नृत्य करने लगे और इस श्लोक की प्रशंसा करने लगे. तो हरिदास ठाकुर कह रहे हैं, कृष्ण नामेर महिमा शास्त्र साधु मुखे जानी. अभी तक हमने कृष्ण के नाम की महिमा शास्त्रों से और साधुओं के मुख से जानी, अभी तक जो महिमा है, लेकिन नामेर माधुरी ऐसे कहाँ नहीं सुनी. ये नाम की ऐसी माधुरी कहीं नहीं सुनी, ना किसी शास्त्र में सुनी, ना किसी साधु के मुख से सुनी। तो हरिदास ठाकुर ये बात बोल रहे हैं चैतन्य महाप्रभु के सामने और रूप गोस्वामी के सामने। तो रूप गोस्वामी के जो श्लोक है नाम की मधुरता का है। तो जितने शास्त्र हैं साधुओं ने नाम की महिमा तो बताई है, कृष्ण नामेर महिमा शास्त्रों ने और साधुओं के मुख से बहुत सुनी है, हरिदास ठाकुर ने बहुत सुनी है, और सब शास्त्र उनके जो है मुंह में स्फुरित होते हैं हरिदास ठाकुर। लेकिन वो कहते हैं कि किसी भी शास्त्र में नाम की ऐसी माधुरी, स्वीटनेस, ग्रेटनेस तो है शास्त्रों में, और साधुओं के मुख से नाम की ग्रेटनेस यानी महिमा तो सुनी है, लेकिन जो स्वीटनेस है नाम की, वो रूप गोस्वामी ने जो श्लोक में जो दिया है, तो वो जो है किसी शास्त्र में और किसी भी साधु के मुख से नहीं सुना। तो हरिदास ठाकुर ये बात बोल रहे हैं। अब ये 3 प्रकार की जो स्वीटनेस माधुरी है वो रूप गोस्वामी जो बता रहे हैं। तो पहली स्वीटनेस यानी माधुरी क्या है कि मुख में अगर ये कृष्ण का जो नाम है तो ये अगर आ जाता है तो हमारे मन में इच्छा होती है कभी कई मुख हो जाएं। एक मुख में जो है इतना मतलब नाम का माधुरी है कि कई मुख पाने की इच्छा होती है कि कई मुखों से नाम का उच्चारण किया जाए। और जब कान में प्रवेश करता है ये नाम तो करोड़ों कानों को पाने की इच्छा हो जाती है, इतना इसकी नाम की माधुरी है। और अगर चित्त में अगर आ जाए ये नाम तो चित्त में क्या होता है कि सब इंद्रियों के जो कार्य हैं बंद हो जाते हैं। चित्त में जो है इतनी मधुरता है नाम की कि सब इंद्रियों के कार्यों को बंद कर देता है। तो रूप गोस्वामी कहते हैं कि ये जो कृष्ण नाम जो 2 अक्षरों का बना हुआ है, इसमें पता नहीं कितने कितने अमृत से जो है बनाया गया है, पता नहीं कितने प्रकार के अमृतों से मिला करके ये 2 अक्षर जो कृष्ण नाम है ये बना हुआ है। तो नाम की जो मधुरता है ये रूप गोस्वामी ने जो लिखी है इस श्लोक में, तो चैतन्य महाप्रभु ने पढ़ा तो बहुत प्रसन्न हुए और हरिदास ठाकुर नृत्य करने लगे। और नृत्य करते करते ऐसा बोल रहे हैं कि किसी शास्त्र में और किसी साधु के मुख से ऐसी मधुरता नहीं सुनी। और जब हरिदास ठाकुर नृत्य करने लगे तो चैतन्य महाप्रभु ने क्या किया, तबे महाप्रभु दुहे करी आलिंगन। तो महाप्रभु दोनों का आलिंगन किया। तो रूप गोस्वामी एक ऐसे व्यक्ति हैं जो पहली बार नाम की मधुरता का इतना सुंदर वर्णन किया, और हरिदास ठाकुर अकेले ऐसे व्यक्ति हैं जो नाम की मधुरता का ऐसा आस्वादन करते हैं। तो दोनों का जो है चैतन्य महाप्रभु ने आलिंगन किया। दोनों जो है मतलब विशेष भक्त हैं। एक तो रूप गोस्वामी जो नाम की मधुरता का वर्णन करने वाले हैं, और दूसरे हरिदास ठाकुर जो नाम की मधुरता का आस्वादन करते हैं। तो इस प्रकार से चैतन्य महाप्रभु दोनों का आलिंगन किया। इस प्रकार कथा प्रसंग चल रहा है। हरे कृष्ण।
श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्री चैतन्य चरितामृत की जय, श्री हरिनाम प्रभु की जय, श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय।